Welcome back. Today we're going to tie a Catskill style dry fly, and I've been kind of on a roll with these old school patterns. They're just a blast for me. I'm going to tie this one. I don't think I've tied one of these since I was in high school, but they're just fun, and they're not only they're fun. I was talking about the wet flies the other day. They still fish. We've kind of lost all this. Everything's gone to parachutes and low riding and stuff like that, and I don't know if they ever really outfish anything else, but I do know there's times when a traditional hackle fly fishes as well, and sometimes, I don't know, maybe they just haven't seen it or something, but they're just a completely different style of tie than kind of what we're used to, because it's pretty much, the world has pretty much forgotten traditional hackling, and we've kind of gone to parachute, at least around here. It's what we see mostly. But this fly, down here, it's just the way it's set, the way the way these are set, with their tails are long and their hackles are long, and they kind of sit, as you can see, they kind of sit right. Ideally, the hook is barely touching the water, and they're kind of wispy that way. They bounce around a little bit, even though they're hooked to your leader. They're there a little bit and moving, and they're really fun to fish. And believe it or not, I can fish these. I really like them in really shallow water. I don't know why, but you can twitch them. And when you twitch these, it must be the longer hackles, I don't know. But it's just kind of neat. And some days it's really, I don't know if I'd call it a code cracker, but they're really fun to watch, and they're fun to fish. And you should, it gives you another opportunity to learn your craft here, learn a little bit more style-wise. And so, I'm just looking here, and you see the fly. This is this little. I'm going to do a ginger quill or a red quill, whatever you want. And you can do this with anything. And I'm going to show you how to kind of strip the materials to do what it is. It's a very straightforward fly, man. This is three materials. Well, two really. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. But I'm also going to do a whole series of body materials for like this, because it's kind of, I still think it's really hard to beat for sheer sexiness and just beautiful bodies. It's really hard to beat a quill body. And there's a lot of them. Stem bodies, how I'm going to do this one here. But there's a bunch of them. These Polish quills, these things are really cool. And these things come in about, man, I don't know, 20 colors or something. But they're really cool. We're going to do, today I'm going to do just a really classic style. And so, and you'll see, it's just fun. So anyway, the hook, I'm using a 14. This is a 100 TMCO. It's just a light wire hook. I like wide gap light wires. But on this particular one, for me personally, when I tune my dry flies, on these traditionals, I don't use the wide gaps as much. I use just a standard bend, just a standard dry fly hook. And they're light wire. We're going to have, essentially, we're going to have this, just your neck, and we're going to have a wood duck flank. And so that's it. That's the whole body. That's everything, because we're going to make everything out of that. So I'm going to use 12-aught Semper-Fi GSP on this. Check this out. My buddy John Bowman did this for me. He did his own wax. Because on your GSPs, it really helps you to have wax just to set your threads to start it off. So on this fly, and again, this is a traditional set, right? This is a traditional style. And so I'm going to start my thread about where I want the hackle to be. I would say, if anything, leave yourself more room. It's not going to hurt you, but about the 1/3. It's about 1/3, 2/3 body, not quite. Just as you can see here, I'm just a little shy of the 1/3. A little heavy, of that. So I have a little bit more room for the hackle on the wing. So again, these are old, these are old ginger necks. These are brown. Actually, I think this was a Coachman once upon a time. It's just really, really old. But I'm going to take my tailing material off the edge traditionally. But on this particular one, because I'm going to use, and again, you can go through and pick this, anything you want. But I'm going to use one of these big feathers that I don't use. You can see it's a sweet spot's gone in this thing. And so most of my good feathers are gone. It's a great use for these. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to pick a feather that's long enough, that has enough for my tail, and I'm going to make my body out of this too. And so I'm going to come in here, get the crap off of this one, and I want really, these things, you want a nice stiff tail. It suspends on the tail. And you know, as far as barbulars go, how many, I don't know, 10, you'll see when I pick them off here, 8, 10. You want it's not a substantial tail. It's a real light fly, so you want a substantial tail, you know, 8, 10, more, it doesn't matter. It's not like a split tail where you're gonna see it. It's one tail down. So make it hard enough stiff enough that it'll suspend the fly. And I want this to be the length of the body. Do not make this short. I harp about this constantly in these things when, you know, about certain times when you always use your hook and for your gauge, just drop that stuff. I want it, there's a purpose, especially on this one, because it suspends, as you saw, I had the bend of the hook is out of the water and it's suspending off of these fibers. So I'm going to take a pretty good number of fibers. You can take less if you want when you start looking at it. And I'm going to put them up here. I dropped that one and keep the ends so that they're all pretty much the same length. And now we're gonna gauge that to the length of the hook. Don't make it short. Make it right. Make it the length of the hook. Come in here. Give yourself a pinch wrap. One set. Just look at it. Take a look. Make sure it's where you want it. This is because the tails are really critical. All right. I'm a little bit long there. Now I'm going to come forward. I'm going to wrap this. Do not go forward past that point where you started your thread, so it tells you where everything ends. Cut it off. Come back here, just nice even wraps, because you're going to wrap this stem back up this body, and you want a nice flat spot. So, where's that feather? So we're going to take this feather, the one I just plucked all the stuff off of, and we're going to, I think that was the one I used. So right here, and I'm just going to take this, we're just going to strip it off of here. It's very quick, you can just pull it off. You're not going to use way up into here, it's going to be way too skinny. And generally, you know, I leave enough so I can see it. Don't worry about this stuff, give you something to hold on to. And so I'm going to come in here. In the old days, when we used to use a lot of Indian hackle. And the hackle was just, I mean, honestly, the stems were probably twice, if not 3 times as fat as these are. This is a whiting neck, and so they became so, the stems are so skinny and so thin for flexibility. Everything whiting did, everything he developed had to do with making them a better dry fly to wrap. Well, it also makes it skinnier, so I'm going to work down into the base of this a little bit more than I might have done in the old days. But the other thing I was getting at is they were so stiff that, and if you're going to work, and we still sell Indian necks and stuff like that, if you think you're going to use a lot of them, and if you bend it and it cracks, just put it between some paper towel, let it get moist, and then it won't crack as much. And so if that's what you're using. But most of this stuff nowadays, unbelievable. You could just wrap's unreal. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right on top of the hook. But I want you to make sure you look where that stem is ending right here. So don't let it go past where to tie it in, don't let it go past where the rest of that stuff is, and leave yourself a little bit of space so you can get at least one turn in front of that when you get up here. Don't have a bump because it'll fall off, but it's really skinny, so just come in here, get it started, and now again, nice perfectly smooth wraps, so you've got a nice layer to put that. When we wrap this stem on it, don't rush it, just come forward nice and even. Stop right there where you're gonna start the hackle. Just so you know, we're gonna put this mallard flank wing, and then we're gonna have equal turns fore and aft. And so 2 or 3 on each side. Now that's up to you. You know, traditionally they're pretty wispy. They're not a lot of hackle. So. But that's why you're leaving this bigger space up here. You want to have plenty of room to put both the wing and the hackle. So I'm going to wrap this with my rotary. If you don't have a rotary, you just wrap it, just nice even turns. Make these first two so you can see them and they're setting up, and you're starting to see it develop. Just make sure it's nice and even, and then you can, once you get past the point of the hook, then you can speed up a little bit. Wow, did you see that? After I said all that stuff about that hackle never breaking, that one did. That stem broke on me. I don't know if you could see it, but it split. After I made about 10 turns, it split. Just happened to have another one right here. So while I'm going to put that, I don't know if they can get bird flu from these things or not, but I'm not going to bother undoing that just for speed. I'm going to start I already tied 2 of these. I've not had one of these thin hackles break, or stems break. So you don't have to reef on this, just tie it in. Keep it on the top of the hook. I'm going over the other one so it's still there. Now we'll try that again. Nice and even. First 2, I just like to get around this. I like to get around the bend of the hook. But what you'll see is you're going to get this. You get these beautiful bodies out of these quills. That's one further than I wanted to go. I went just a little bit further forward than I wanted to. Backing it off. I'm being a little ginger with this thing because I tied 3 of these before we did this one just to try to remember how to do them all. And I never had a stem break, and that one made me a little nervous. So you can see it's got a really cool little segmented body. They're really pretty. And so now I'm going to take a mallard flank, these are actually breast feathers, not flank feathers. We call them flanks on all these things, but I'm going to take one of these, and it depends on, you can, just whatever you like the looks of, but we're going to split it. I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to cut the tip out of it because then I can pull this up. And what you want to make sure that your wings, when you pull this up, you don't want to tie in the stem, right? So when I pull this up right here, that wing, after the stem's gone, is at least the length of the body. So I'm going to end up tying this one in about right there, so I'll be fine. But when you're judging it, don't have the stem when you pull it up here. And the idea of this is it'll give you kind of a set of wings here, a little bit more than I need. You're going to have a set of wings when you pull it through, and their natural curve's already going to be going back. It's just an easy way to set them. You could do a clump of these things and spread them however you want. We're going to set these wings on top here. Move your thread forward. Now this is what I was talking about. We're going to have 2 or 3 turns in front and back of the hackle. So we got to be in the middle. We've got to tie this in. If you're going to err a little bit one way or the other, I suggest you do it further back, right? Because if you're too far forward, if you don't do it right, is what you want to do. But stay back a little bit, if anything else, so that you don't rush that eye and you get that second turn of hackle up there and you got nothing left. So anyway, we're going to take this mallard flank, and we want the wings to be the length. When we tie it in, we want the wings to be the length of the body. And so they're sitting here. When we set them, they're going to split. They're going to have kind of their natural set. You'll have a few here and there. You just got to manipulate them. So you're going to come in here and get an idea how long that's supposed to be, right? It's going to be the length of the body. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to tie that in, give it 2 or 3 turns. I like to try to keep that natural. It's got a natural because they're 2 separate parts, right? Right here. I like to try to get that a little bit split right in the beginning, just so I'm not having one go over the other. Just make it easier. So you can look and just pull. Then you can pull them back into the length you want. And when you set those up, when you do your turn to set it up, what you're going to see right there, it almost automatically splits out. And because the reason we cut that notch, the reason you cut this notch right here out of the feather is that when you pull that, you look like this, they're two separate, even though they're kind of going across each other, they're two separate sets of wings, and they will try to go back where they belong. And so you can see on this one, even though it's a little crooked right now, they've already split, right? And if you look, but still, look at the wing. I think there's just a little bit, some of it's a little bit over there. I just kind of look at it, try to get them pretty equal. Once you've got it set, make sure you didn't migrate forward while you were playing with the wing there. And then just kind of look it over and just give it a simple figure eight. You don't have to reef on that, just give it a nice simple figure eight, and you can see that the wings are there. They're just pretty, right? Traditionally, when you looked at these flies, frequently we said the wings are a little longer than the hackle. And so, and I don't know if that's just how the ones I saw growing up in all the magazines you saw. You know, you want to see that the really good ones, you look at the derbies, the people that were doing them on the East Coast, where all this started. And you can see how they set there. There's all kinds of history on these. And so you can see, I always made mine just a little bit longer than the hackle, just because that's the way I saw them originally done. So now I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to let this go right over top of where I tied in the stem. So I've got a nice clean spot here. I'm just going to double check. I'm a little bit forward on that. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a push. Like, see, I rushed that just a, I wish I was about a turn back. It's just one turn of hackle, right? So, but it's close enough. So this would be, I'm going to tie this, I'm going to show you how to use a hackle gauge here. For those of you who haven't seen, I talk about these a lot in my videos about how to use a hackle gauge. I say go a size bigger, and this is kind of where I got that. And so when you do this, all you do is just bend it across this thing right here, this little peg, and you're just looking to see where the 12 line is. Or, you know, this is a 14, so I'm going to use a size 12 hackle. And so I'm going to do this one. I really like, I pulled one out here. I didn't have a dark, a ginger badger neck. I couldn't find one on my junk. And so what I'm looking for is this. I just like the badger because you have a darker line, just kind of cool looking. And, I mean, traditionally this would be done with a full ginger. I'm going to do it with this dark bar ginger, which is kind of a Cree-ish hackle. And part of it is because when I went through and picked it, there's a little bit of badger right there in the bottom. I just think it's going to look neat. I don't know if it's going to look good. I've never done one with it, so I haven't. But I'm just going to tie that in with that little bit of badger hackle. I'm stripping this off, so you can see I'm going to have a little. This is a dark bar ginger. Dark bar ginger is really close. This is just super close to Cree. Trying to get Crees like trying to find a damn unicorn anymore. You can't find them. And when we try to buy them, they're sold out. They sell out before. I mean, they're like four-leaf clovers, man. You just can't get them. And so, but you can get dark bar ginger. And generally speaking, if you go into one of these dark bar gingers, it's not uncommon to find, 20% Cree hackle in the actual Cree color. So you can find them, but you've got to be some superstar tire anyway to even see the difference in that stuff. And when it's on the feather or on the hook, I don't think you're going to see it anyway. So on this, I like the hackle to face forward. So this is one of the times where I'm going to take the shiny side to my left, and I'm going to wrap forward. So I actually want the hackle to sit forward. I don't want it to lay back across the body. And only because that's how I always saw them tied. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to set this hackle. I actually think that hackle stem is trying to crack on me, on my body. Just so you know, that hackle that I used is probably 25 years old. So I'm going to do a figure 8 on this hackle so I can get it set. Tighten that down. Don't hook that hackle. Move forward. And now, this is where you get to look at things. I got a feeling that I don't have that hackle set. This is where you get a chance to look at everything. Look at your wing, because once you wrap the hackle, you're done. And again, I'm a little bit forward. Make sure your wings are split. Everything's good. Groovy. Then just come forward to the wing. need the hackle plier for that. And I'm going to get one. This is what I was trying to get that badger. I like that badger look of that dark center. So I've got a little bit, I screwed that up. I've got 3 turns in the back, and you can see the hackle's leaning forward. Everything's good there. But I'm getting a 4th turn, and I'm only going to get 3 in front of this. I like to see even. I like to see even numbers of those. That kind of hooked my. I didn't think I needed hackle pliers, but I do because I screwed that up and got an extra turn in the back. So now I'm going to. Don't hook your wing. 1, 2. I can get a third one in there. So, oh, that's really sexy. I'm glad I put that in there. So I can come in here, just come in and clean that up. Stroke it back. Get out of there. I'm using this 12. If you were using traditional thread back in the day, it's taken me a while to get used to this because it's so little build that you could probably put 15 turns on that and not even build what you used to do with the nylon. If I had done that many turns, and I'm trying to make it so the head actually looks bigger. In the old days, everything was trying to do just enough turns so you didn't have this giant bulky head. And now you can sit here and just, you can turn these things forever. There's just no build up to them. And they're so strong. So, everything's good there. The hackles, is what we're used to seeing. And I want you to understand that. And I went to a full 12. This is a size 14 hook. And I went to a full 12, and I've been preaching that for a long time, that the hackle gauges are kind of not set for the old school flies. But when you look at that, get off there. I'll set this down here, and I'll have Jeremy do a close-up. And what you're going to see is, I'm trying to get this up. It's going to sit there and barely, they kind of want to move around because they're on those hackle tips, right? And you can see that the hook is barely touching the paper. It's just sitting on the end. It's right there on the edge, and that's how they're supposed to sit. What they end up doing, I'll show you a picture in a book, is I don't know if I have the book here or not, but you'll see the hackles end up sinking through in the bottom because it's a little bit wispy, and they kind of hang on the edges, right? So the fly will sit down a little bit deeper than on the tips of that hackle, but they tend to be bouncy like this, and so it's a really fun fly. And I mean, again, I don't know if they fish. I don't know. I'm pretty sold on parachutes, but I always have a few of these with me, and every once in a while I'll have fish that just won't respond like they should, and I'll put on a traditional dressed fly like that. Almost always they're bigger than the natural, and they just eat them. But more than anything, they're just really fun, and they're pretty flies. They'll fish. I actually fish these a lot on ponds. I have no idea why they eat them on ponds, but they do. And so it's just kind of fun to time. I hope you liked it. Hope it helps you out.